So here we have 2e over e squared all raised to the negative 2 power. So since this exponent is on the entire parentheses, we could apply it to everything inside. So we'll apply it to all the bases. So here I have 2 raised to the negative 2 power. Then I also have e on top raised to the negative 2 power. And then on the bottom, I also have e squared to the negative 2 power. But if you remember, if I have an exponent of an exponent, or a power of a power, we can just multiply them. So I have e to the negative 2 times 2 is e to the negative 4. Next, we remember that negative exponents, all we need to do with them is move them. So anything on the top, like this negative 2 here and this negative 2 here, we're going to move them down to the bottom. And this negative 4, well, it's already on the bottom, so we're going to move it to the top. So it's going to move it all. So that e to the negative 4 moves to the top and becomes positive 4. Then both of these move to the bottom. So I have a 2 to the second power and e to the second power. And now we can just simplify it. So here, first let's simplify the e's. So if I have 4 on top, 2 on the bottom, that's 4 minus 2 is e squared. Or you can imagine 2 of them being canceled out and being left over with 2 on top. And then obviously we also know that 2 squared is 4. So we get e squared over 4. All right, for number 2, again, we're going to solve this one by square roots. So if you remember what we want to do here, whenever we're solving by roots, we can think SADMAP to make sure we do things in the correct order. That's PEMDAS backwards. So let's try this. So if I have 3x minus 2 squared minus 3 is equal to 45. According to SADMAP, the first thing we're going to do is take care of our addition and subtraction. So I'm going to add 3. So I'm left with 3 times x minus 2 squared is equal to 48. Next, what we want to do is get rid of multiplication and division. And as I've said so many times, do not distribute this. We cannot distribute that. There has a squared on it, so we don't want to distribute. We want to undo the multiplication here. So all we're going to do is divide by 3. And that will cancel it out. So we divide by 3 here too. And 48 divided by 3 is 16. Now, since we're solving by square roots, next we get rid of exponents. We have an exponent of 2. So to cancel out an exponent of 2, we use a root with the second root, or just square root. We don't need that little 2 there. But that will cancel it out. And what we do to the other side, same thing. And since it's an even number, we have to remember the plus or minus when we actually do the square root. So here I'm left with x minus 2. So the square root and the square cancel out. And here I'm left with is equal to the square root of 16 is 4, but don't forget we have to do plus or minus 4. So now we're left with 2 equations that we need to solve. Remember, we have 2 parts. We have to do the plus version, so x minus 2 is equal to 4. And if I solve this one out, I get plus 2 is x is equal to 6. And we also have to do the minus version, so x minus 2 is also equal to negative 4. And if I add my 2 here, then we get x is equal to negative 2. Moving down to problem number 3. So the way we want to do this is similar to the way we would factor out 4 terms. And remember, that's by grouping. So we group the first 2 and group the second 2. And our goal, if you recall, is trying to get this as length times width times height. So we're trying to get it as something times something times something. And since we know 2 of them, that one and this one right here, we can figure out what's the last one. So if I'm left starting off with 16x to the 4th minus 56x to the 3rd plus 20x squared minus 70x. First thing we know that's easy to pull out is the 2x. So I'll pull that out first. So I'm going to pull out a 2x. So if I divide that out or factor out that 2x, I'm going to be left with an 8x to the 3rd minus 28x squared plus 10x and minus 35. Then what we want to do is we want to group we want to group the first two and second two of what's left over and try and pull out so that we're left with 2x minus 7 inside. So I'll group the first two, group the second two, and let's see what we can pull out of here. So if I want a 2x minus 7 left inside, I have to pull out a 4x squared, because 8 divided by 4 is 2, and I want a 2 left over. So that 2x is still off by itself, but let's see. Here I'm going to pull out a 4x squared, and left inside is going to be the 2x, and this divided by 4 is minus 7. Good, that's what we want left inside. And same thing here, if I want to leave behind a 2x here, I need to divide it by 5. And I'm left with 2x, and then 35 divided by 5 is 7, so we got the minus 7 there. And so we still have the 2x. We still have the 2x minus 7, that's one of our factors. And lastly, what was left behind, or what we pulled out, was the 4x squared and the plus 5. So we're going to do 4x squared plus 5. And so we know this one's the height. Where is it? This one's the height. Then we know that this one is the length, so the leftover one must be the width, 4x squared plus 5. So there it is.